Now, nearly 6 months into the Ukraine conflict, the First Lady Olena Zelenska has become an icon to many citizens. She was known for the fact that she liked a private and somewhat quiet life before the war. It was her husband who was the showman. But in recent weeks, we've seen her step out and make some very public appearances. She spoke to the US Congress. She asked for more weapons for Ukraine. She has given a few other interviews, and rather controversially, in the last week, she has appeared on the cover of Vogue magazine. But significantly, she hosted her very own summit in Kyiv, a summit of first wives and husbands from other countries. 22 people were there, and there are many other celebrities as well who joined from around the world. She spoke about issues that were very important to her at that summit: the mental health of Ukrainians as they deal with the trauma of war, educating children, those that have left and are in IDP camps, and what can be done to help with the education of children within the country. I've been speaking to her just in a short time ago, and I started by asking her about this relationship that she has with some of the other first wives. Remember, they are not elected to any positions like her, but she believes that they're influential.
To be honest, I felt the power of the community from the very first days of the full-blown invasion of the 24th of February, because each of them provided not just the words of support, but actions. Together, we helped taking the children with cancer abroad. We will carry on implementing cultural projects, because it's very important to carry on Ukrainian cultural expansion without stopping, and we can help give an example of the First Lady of Latvia that takes care of newborn babies of Ukrainian mums that were now at the Latvian territory. And it's not just a declaration of friendship. It's not. It's the actions that we are doing together.
Do you think there is something unique, though, about the way that women help other women?
We call this the diplomacy of soft power. And the First Ladies do not have political impact opportunity, but we have the emotional impact. And sometimes it gives more for cooperation between the countries than various political aspects or geopolitical aspects. When we understand one another, when we feel one another, we can cope with a lot more, we can achieve a lot more, and the influence of the First Ladies in the world cannot be overestimated. It's very powerful. That's why we are using it.
Are you worried about how many Ukrainian women have left, though, when it comes to the recovery of the country when the war is over, that so many women won't be there potentially?
That was one of the topics we discussed at the summit, the human factor of restoring Ukraine. Several million of people are currently abroad, and for the most part, it's women and children. We have not just the worry about them leaving, we also worry about them coming back. We have to work now for them to have somewhere to come back to have conditions for normal life and development in Ukraine after the war is over. A lot of tasks to resolve them very quickly, but we have to start resolving them even during the war. Normally, for a woman in any conditions, and especially during the wartime, has a great burden on her shoulders. In our case, 38,000 of soldiers' wives, teachers, medics, they have to carry about the family, about her own parents, about her children, about the parents of her husband. It's a massive amount of work on the shoulders of our women. And our task, our daily task, is to support them. It's especially important during the war.
It's hard for most of us to imagine what it's like to live through a war every day and the sort of mental trauma that goes along with that. And I know it's something that you're concerned about and you raised at the summit as well. What is the best way that you think people can cope with the daily stress of war?
You know, the whole of Ukraine is currently living in stress. For example, this night and this morning there was a massive rocket attack on our territory. The rockets were falling in the Kiev region, at the east and the north of the country. We constantly feel it. Every Ukrainian is living under constant tension starting from the 24th of February. That tension doesn't subside. That's why we have to learn. Each of us has to learn to live with that feeling, to be strong. But that's a long-distance work. Unfortunately, we don't need just advice, we need active expert help. That's why we're approaching the World Health Organization for their expertise, and they're already helping us with psychological interventions. We can use the practices, the tools which are already developed and used in the world in order to help Ukrainians. The calculations of the Ministry of Healthcare, 15 million Ukrainians would need psychological and psychiatric help after the end of the war. We are talking about PTSD. If previously that was used as something where we talk about soldiers, about the military, but currently the situation in Ukraine is that 70% of the Russian arms are used against the civilian populations, against the children, women, older people, and in our case, PTSD is a factor. And the program of psychological health on a national level is being developed, which will help us to overcome the possible consequences of the war. We're already working on this. As I said, many countries are helping us, including Israel and the United States and the World Health Organization, and we are finding the best practices in order to implement them in Ukraine. We have to build such a system so that every Ukrainian will be able to receive qualified first aid with regard to their mental health.
But ordinary life goes on, and I've heard it described, it's not a work-life balance, it's a war-life balance in Ukraine right now. How do you manage that yourself?
You know, indeed, if we look at the streets of Kiev, sometimes there is an illusion that all is well, all is normal. The shops are working, people are promenading with children, sitting in cafeteria, drinking coffee, and to some of the people this seems wrong. We understand that the war is going on and our soldiers are dying at the front line every day, but on the other hand, the country has to survive. The country has to preserve some normality, and even our soldiers are saying to their friends, to those who are waiting for them at home, go to a cafe, go see a film, go for a walk with the kids, enjoy the peace that you can have now, because we are dying here at the war to return that peace to you, to preserve this faith in life. And that balance is very delicate. And if someone visits Kiev now and would say that that is a completely peaceful, normal city. That unfortunately would be an illusion, as I said, because the morning and night attacks do not let us forget us. But the economy has to work, and we're very grateful to all the entrepreneurs, all the enterprises that are working, making it possible. And the country has to work. It shouldn't stop, because that's needed for development. There is no life without development. We have to develop, and no one will stop us from doing that.
Mrs. Zelenska, you are very different from your husband, though. You are known to like your privacy and to actually be quite a quiet person too. And yet here you are talking to me, talking to other media organisations as well. And some even say that you're an icon now. Does all of this make you feel a bit uncomfortable, or do you feel like it's necessary for you to give publicity to what is happening in your country?
Well, when I hear compliments, I start feeling the need to speak to the public. I'm very grateful. And indeed, such an interview as we're having now, for me, it's pleasant, but it's important for me. In peaceful time, I'm not used to such excessive attention. But now, in Ukraine, everyone is fighting at their own front. And I am prepared to be more public in order to reach out to more people and to tell them the information, tell them the truth about Ukraine. So here there couldn't be any sentiments. That is work, and I have to do that.
One of the most high-profile things you've done is the cover shoot for Vogue. Many people love it, but there are some people who see it as glamorizing the war. How do you respond to that criticism?
You know, I will repeat myself again that I'm using every opportunity to speak about Ukraine. That was a massive opportunity, because millions of people read Vogue, tens of millions of people in the world. It's a very popular publication, and to be able to speak to them direct, that was my duty. And that was an interesting experience. It was a very short period of time, literally a few hours during the interview. That was very important for me. And there will be always someone criticizing. There always will be some issues. I believe that it's better to do something and to be criticized than to do nothing.
Mrs. Zelenska, I have one final question for you. Do you allow yourself to look into the future, to imagine a time after the war, or do you simply just have to look at every day and getting through every day?
It would be correct to say that the most important thing now is to hold on, to withstand it. But with regard to future planning, this is what we are fighting for. I do not plan any personal future at all at the moment, but I plan my future actions for the Ukrainian people. That's why we're introducing all the projects that we've discussed. That's why we dream about restoring, rebuilding Ukraine. Unfortunately, there will be a lot of things to rebuild and restore. The infrastructure has been destroyed, many schools and hospitals completely destroyed, and several million people left. Everything has to come back to normal life. Now we are on the military rails, but we will restore Ukraine, and this is what we are working